So I'm Jane Andrews. I'm the president of the League of Women Voters of San Diego, and I am calling the 2026 annual meeting to order. We have a wonderful turnout, and it's always wonderful to be together in person. So I have a few procedural matters that I want to speak to you about. Everybody was emailed a packet, the annual meeting packet, on May 20th, also sent out in the June Voter. However, at your table, there are printed copies of the most important items, and I'm going to just remind you of what they are. There is the order of business and the rules, very important, in case you wonder what the rules are. There is the treasurer's report that also has the budget. There are copies, and there are enough copies of the treasurer's reports for every 2 people. There are copies of the annual reports of all of our league leaders, which for me is great reading. And then there is 1 copy of the whole annual meeting packet. And you're welcome to take any of this home. There are also cards which have our QR code which takes you to our 2026 election information site. Please spread those around. We feel that our information is one of our great strengths. Most of the people here are members, but motions and voting is only by members. We have parliamentarian Bruce Bishop with us. He was with us last year. He's a pro on this subject, and he's written a book called Parliamentary Pizza. So thank you for joining us, Bruce. Donna Bartlett-May, our secretary, will be taking notes. Kathleen Grove, Vicki King is our timer. Thank you, Vicki. And Lance Chang, who's a professional, is our photographer. So, with that, Donna, can you give a credentials report? I'm going to give you the mic.
As of the date May 29th, we have 396 members. The bylaws require 5% of that number to be here, and we have exceeded that, so we have a quorum.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to start with 3 short motions. And before we do those, I want to have a quick review of voting procedures. We have enough people who are new to the league, and I think want to review this. So for every motion, somebody will make the motion and we'll have a second. And then following that, we will have discussion. You can raise your hand, you can stand up if you would like to be recognized, but please be brief. Vicki will be timing. After discussion, I will call for a voice vote. You can, all in favor will be aye, all opposed no. You can abstain. If for some reason there's no clear voice vote, we'll have a counted vote. Okay, so Ashley, you are also going to make some motions for us.
I'd like to motion to move to adopt the proposed order of business printed in the annual meeting packets.
Do I have a second? Okay, Jeannie Brown, a second. All right, any discussion? All right, seeing none, I'm going to call for the vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, any abstain? So I think we've got a vote, unanimous. All right, motion number 2.
Hello, I motion to adopt the proposed rules of order as printed in the annual meeting packet.
All right, do I have a second? Miles Pomeroy. Okay, any discussion? All right, I'm going to call for the vote. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. Any abstentions? Okay, Thank you. That passes unanimously.
Third motion? We on? Okay.
Onward.
I move to appoint members Vicki King, Sue Fisher, and Deirdre Bauer. Is it
Browning.
Browner, to the committee to approve today's minutes.
All right, do we have a second? Marka Gay. All right. This job, by the way, is to review the minutes that Donna will take and approve them in lieu of, having the whole group review them. It's sort of a representative group. Okay. Any discussion? All right. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, we've got our three motions, so that puts us underway. So I'm now going to turn the mic over to Jeannie Brown.
You need to approve the minutes of your last meeting.
We do? Even though, okay, sorry.
The membership needs to ratify the committee's approval.
Can I just ask for that?
If there's any objection.
Okay, is there any objection to the minutes from last year's annual meeting? They were in your annual meeting packet. And approved by committee. So can I ratify, should I get a vote? Okay, thank you. This is why we need you, Bruce. Okay, onward to Jeannie Brown.
All right. So, Thomas Jefferson famously stated, "Were it left to me to decide whether we should have government without newspapers or newspapers without a government, I should not hesitate a moment to prefer the latter." This was even before there were so many requirements for journalists to have multiple sources for their reporting, for formal training in colleges and universities. Today, we should be appreciating them all the more, but too often we do not. Too often, we not only take them for granted, but rely on untrained talking heads rather than on those with years of training and experience. Our two awardees tonight have that training and experience and expertise, and we see it in their articles. When our criminal justice interest group worked on a report on the conditions in our county jails and found so much information about the topic in our daily paper, the UT, I, for one, was constantly asking myself, how do they find out all of this information? How do they take the bits and pieces that they discover and put them together to make a story that is so well organized and easy for the rest of us to understand? And aren't we glad that they do? Jeff and Kelly are jewels that should be given the appreciation for how rare they are today, especially in a local paper. If it wasn't for their work, we not only wouldn't have had enough information for our report, we wouldn't have even known that there was a problem. So once it was suggested at one of our meetings that they should be given an award, we knew that we, the League of Women Voters of San Diego, needed to be the ones to do this. And so today, we are so pleased that Jeff is here to accept our sincere thanks for all that they do. Jeff, thank you so much. And Jeff is going to say a few words.
Thank you.
Want to explain about Kelly?
Yeah, thank you so much. And on behalf of Kelly, who is ill and couldn't make it today, she asked me to say a couple of things, and particularly that this award means so much because of you guys and who bestows it. She's so impressed that you guys seem to really get the depth of the problem at within the San Diego County jails, and we get a lot of feedback from our stories, and it's not always positive, and they're sometimes along the lines of, well, these are criminals anyway, and what difference does it make? And the problem is any one of us could be arrested at any time, and the vast majority of people in custody just can't make bail and have yet to be convicted for the offense for which they're being held. So for that reason, and so many others, it's just a real treat to be honored. The work we do is not easy, but it's really rewarding, and we think we've made some measure of change in the community, and we hope that continues. Stay tuned. We need you guys out there as our eyes and ears, and we're so grateful to hear from people on any subject, not just failures in the jail system, but anything that you think merits attention. We're always willing to look at. So don't be shy about calling us or sending us emails. We're both easy to find. I wouldn't do well if I didn't thank my editor, Sam Schultz, and our senior editor, Laura Sacalo, for both their willingness to run so many jail stories. We always worry that they'll get tired of them because, to be honest, they're not the highest generating stories, as far as clicks go, and analytics is a big part of the Union Tribune business model these days. And our stories don't always generate the most subscriptions or conversions or page views or whatever other analytics they have. I try not to worry about that, but anyway, it's just a huge honor to be recognized, especially by people so engaged and so committed to good governance. So thank you to Jeannie Brown, thank you to the League of Women Voters, and thank you for reading our stories. We really, really appreciate it. So, thank you.
We'd like to get a picture.
Sure.
Oh.
I didn't want to leave without saying hi.
You look at hers first, then you look at mine. Got it? All right, here we go. All right, we're going to take a couple just in case someone blinks, right? Here, 1, 2, and 3. 1, 2, and 3. And 1, 2, and 3. And one more for good. Okay, got it.
Okay, thanks.
Is it possible to email me one of those? I will send it to Kelly. She really was sorry she couldn't.
I'm going to text you.
Nice to see you.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
All right. It gives me enormous pleasure to introduce our guest speaker. Jenny Farrell is the CEO of the League of Women Voters of California. She got a BA from Smith College and a JD from USC Gould School of Law. She's worked for the Los Angeles Center for Law and Justice, and she was executive director of mental health advocacy services before she came to the League. She's a lifelong Californian and the mother of 2 boys. So, Jenny, we're delighted you could be with us.
Well, thank you so much, Jane, for inviting me to be with you all this evening, and thank you all for the warm welcome. It's always nice to be with groups of folks who care deeply about democracy, so it really is my pleasure to be here. So for those of you who I haven't had the pleasure of meeting yet, as Jean said, my name is Jenny Farrell. I call myself the executive director. CEO sounds very fancy, but whatever, of the League of Women Voters of California. And as Jane mentioned, I joined the League after spending, the last dozen years or so as a public interest lawyer and nonprofit leader in Los Angeles. So throughout my career, I have worked on issues like housing, domestic violence, mental health, and access to justice. But what eventually drew me to the League when I saw the job opening for an executive director for the State League was, really the realization and understanding that all of those issues and all the issues we care about ultimately depend on a healthy, functioning democracy. Whether we're talking about housing, healthcare, education, climate, economic opportunity, none of those issues can be effectively addressed if people don't trust the democratic process or feel excluded from it. And that's why the work of the League matters so much right now. When I stepped into this role this past October, what's really hit me over the last 6 months or so is that the League is not just this wonderful institution that's been around for 100 years. It really is a movement powered by all of you, and I get to do this and meet with your sisters and brothers in similar community halls up and down the state of California. So at the state level, our role is really to support and amplify and connect that movement. We work alongside more than 60 local leagues here in California, over 7,000 engaged members. And our job is really to provide the infrastructure, coordination, and advocacy that allow all of us to have a greater impact together than any one of us could individually or within our own local organization. So that means we lead statewide advocacy in Sacramento and at the ballot box. We also defend democracy in the courts. As mentioned, I happen to be a lawyer, although I'm not really doing law work most of the time now in my role as executive director with the League of Women Voters of California, but we seem to find ourselves in court a lot these days. And it means, producing trusted, nonpartisan voter education tools like the Vote 411 website and the Easy Voter Guide in multiple languages. And again, our real work is supporting all of you. We try and provide training and communications and partnership with all of our local partners. We're a very small staff team at the state level. There's just 6 of us. And everything that we do is really grounded in that principle of trying to serve this network. So I want to spend a little bit of time talking about what has been happening over the last year at the League of Women Voters of California and why this work really matters. So, many folks today are experiencing today's political environment as kind of a series of different disconnected events. A voter ID proposal, a Supreme Court decision they hear about that's affecting voting rights, federal demands for voter information. From where I sit, these events are all really deeply and profoundly connected. At their core, many of them are efforts to make participation in democracy harder, to reduce trust in elections, and concentrate power in fewer hands. And so much of our work this past year, even though I know there's all these issues we all care about, we've really been focused on the core democracy and voting rights issues this past year. So let me give you a couple examples. One of the most visible fights we're engaged in right now is we're co-chairing the campaign against the new voter ID initiative that has recently qualified for the November ballot. So supporters present this initiative as a measure to improve election security. But the thing is, California already has very secure elections. I actually had the opportunity to tour the ballot processing center in LA County last week, and I was just incredibly impressed. Every ballot goes through multiple layers of verification. The sophisticated technology flags the ballots that need additional review. My favorite part was seeing the rows and rows of trained workers who are doing the side-by-side comparison of signatures. They have every signature you've ever, submitted on a DMV or ballot over however many decades, and they're trained to, recognize the way you sloop your S or whatever. So, these ballots are all tracked and audited and verified and protected through this extraordinary chain of custody process. And the reason that it takes time to count ballots in California is not because our elections are insecure. It's because those officials and those folks doing it are really committed to getting the count right. They are dedicated public servants who take their responsibilities extraordinarily seriously. And so this voter ID initiative here and similar initiatives in other states and at the federal level, when we saw the SAVE Act going through Congress, they really are ignoring that reality of how secure our elections actually are. And they're built to address this problem that does not exist. Voter impersonation is extraordinarily rare. So what the initiative would do, however, is create new barriers for many voters, including seniors, students, low-income voters, voters with disabilities, naturalized citizens, women, and others who have changed their name due to marriage, and communities of color, many of whom do not possess a current valid government-issued ID. So for the League, this is speaking to our core issues of who we are and who we always have been. We are trying to make participation in democracy easier, not harder. At the same time, we've been fighting to protect California voters in the courts. So one of our most significant efforts this past year has been our involvement in the case of United States versus Weber. So in that case, the Department of Justice demanded access to California's full unredacted statewide voter file, which contains highly sensitive voter information. And so the League moved to intervene directly on the case to represent the interests of the voters whose private information was at risk. And so the judge granted our motion to intervene, and so then we became a party to that case as well, along with Secretary of State Shirley Weber. And we ultimately won at the district level. The court said, no, the federal government does not have a right to this information. The case is now on appeal before the Ninth Circuit, and it's the first one that's gone up on appeal, and probably will be the first one to be decided out of a slew of similar cases working their way through the courts across the country. And we just had oral arguments, not this past week, but the week before, and they went pretty well. So fingers crossed that I'll have a good update to send out in a League of Women Voters of California newsletter sometime soon about winning on appeal. But that litigation really has implications beyond California. Because other courts and other judges may be looking to see what this first case that goes up on appeal does. And it really raises fundamental questions about voter privacy, federal overreach, and whether states are going to continue to retain authority over their own election systems. So we're really proud to be in that fight. So another major focus of our work this year has been protecting voter rights following a series of troubling federal court decisions. I know this is a very educated room. You all read about the decision that the Supreme Court issued a few weeks ago in the case of Louisiana versus Calais. And that decision really gutted one of the most important remaining tools that communities of color have relied on for decades to challenge discriminatory election systems and district maps. For more than 40 years, Section 2 of the Federal Voting Rights Act helped ensure that those communities had a meaningful opportunity to elect candidates of their choice. It's been one of the most important civil rights protections in our nation's history. And that decision, and a decision that has since followed over the past week from Alabama, really guts those protections. So, what can we do about it? I know a lot of folks are really concerned about what's going on in the South and are like, okay, well, what are we going to do about it here in California? The League believes that when federal protections are weakened, we can look to our own states, and our own states have a responsibility to step forward. So we have been helping to lead the effort to pass the California Voting Rights Act of 2026. We are proudly co-sponsoring this legislation as part of the California Democracy Partnership, which is a coalition of civil rights, racial justice, labor, and community organizations working together to strengthen democracy in California. So this legislation is really, unfortunately needed because we're losing these protections on the federal level. So strengthen protections against voter suppression, strengthen protections against vote dilution and discriminatory district maps. It would establish a state-level review process for jurisdictions with histories of discrimination, and it would importantly expand language access protections so that more Californians can receive all their voting materials in their language and can fully participate in elections. So, that's what we have the opportunity. That's the work that we can do here in our jurisdiction is in California, is when those federal protections are being destroyed, we have that opportunity to move in the opposite direction. And I'm, happy to report that the League is really at the center of that effort. We are the first ones that elected officials call when they're trying to figure out anything to do with voting rights or democracy efforts. But we're not just playing defense. It does kind of feel like playing whack-a-mole, as something new is coming up every week, some new attack. But we're also playing offense. We are working proactively to expand participation and make our democracy more representative. So the other statewide ballot initiative that we have joined as a co-chair for the campaign right now is the campaign for the California Fair Elections Act, which would remove the ban on public financing of elections. It does not create a public financing system anywhere. It simply allows California communities to decide for themselves whether they want one. So why does that matter? Well, because right now, as you all know, running for office requires access to wealthy donor networks and significant financial resources. And that really limits who can run for office, and ultimately it limits who gets represented in public office. Public financing helps create opportunities for women, people of color, working class candidates, and community leaders who may not have access to wealthy donor circles. It helps ensure elected officials are spending more time talking to voters and less time raising money. And it helps democracy feel more accessible to more people. So, I just love the contrast between these two ballot initiatives that we are co-chairs on. The voter ID initiative is really making participation in democracy harder. The California Fair Elections Act is making participation in democracy easier. And that's really the choice that's going to be before voters this November. So I'm really looking forward to working with League of Women Voters of San Diego and all of our leagues on those two campaigns and all the rest of our initiatives for the rest of this year. I invite you all to stay connected. Jane has my email, but you all can reach out to me, share your ideas, tell us what you need from the state level. Our strength really is our network. And again, just thank you so much for everything you all do. And thanks. That's it. Bye.
Thank you so much. That's great. Thank you. I wish we had time for Q&A because we could probably go on, but I think we've got a lot to cover, so we'll pass on it this time. But thank you so much, Jenny, and thank you for doing such a great job for us. Okay, so moving along. We have two recognitions that I have great pleasure to speak about. And these are two of our members who have been members for a very long time. The first is Margie Larson. Margie, can you come up? I love your outfit. It's perfect. Perfect outfit, so Lee. So Margie has been a member since 1966, so she is a 60-year member. Now when you cross 50 years, you become a lifetime member and you don't have to pay dues, but you're well beyond that. And my favorite memory of Margie, so the other thing about her is that she remains active. It's one thing to belong, but it's another to remain active. She comes to immigration meetings regularly. She comes to policy meetings. At the No Kings March last October, Margie carried our banner the whole way. We tried to take it away and she wouldn't do it. So we have a certificate of recognition signed by Diana Nguyen, the president of the National League of Women Voters. And Thank you, Margie. What a
Thank you.
treat.
It's been a wonderful run.
Do you want to say a word or two? No. Okay. I'm just so glad you're here.
I'm a member of the Criminal Justice Committee.
Oh, criminal justice. Thank you. Oh, did I miss? Well, you got it.
We can do it after.
After, okay. The second person is Sarah Karp, who's now talking to Margie. Sarah, it's your moment. So Sarah, come on up. Sarah has been... Sarah is crossing the 50-year mark, so she now is a life member. But she wrote, and if you go back and reread your annual meeting packet, because she has a wonderful write-up. She was co-chair of the League of Women Voters of California convention in 1983, when the high-tech element was the rotary phone. So this is a similar
Thank you.
certificate. Do you want to say a word or two?
I'm not as a full-time participant like Margie and my mentor in League now, Mary Hansen, who I've known for at least 50 years, but I do so appreciate the work that every one of you is doing, and hopefully your kids are too. My 3 daughters are working in their various communities toward democracy for every single person, and especially thank you for the work you're doing. It's so impressive to come here. Thank you very much.
Oh, Sarah.
You can put the mic down, shake hands with the right hand. This, you're gonna hold this one right here.
Oh, you really know how to do this.
Right there.
We go with each other?
Yeah. You can look at each other. Yeah. Okay, look at me.
Oh, okay.
1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. One more. 1, 2, 3. And we're gonna get. You want to do the other one?
Thanks, Ashley.
Yeah, we can get both of you together.
Yeah, that would be great. I like having the banners up. Get your banners. Come on this way.
Okay. And just slide over slightly. And then looking right here. Okay, ready? 1, 2, and 3. 1, 2, and 3. 1, 2, and looking here. Look here. Right here. And one more. Okay, got it.
Thank you. All right, I have a few more recognitions. One is Wendy Young is retiring as events chair. She's not leaving events, but she's retiring from the board. She's not able to be here tonight, but I have given her a little gratitude from the league. So I wanted to acknowledge Wendy stepping down. The other recognitions I want to do is of our observers. So some of you may not know that the league nationwide has observers, and these are members who follow a particular committee, usually a city committee, county committee, and they track it every week for what is relevant for the league. They don't have to listen to absolutely every word, and then they write up a summary. This is available on our website, the summaries, but we have 4 observers, and I want to encourage people who are interested to become observers. So the first one is Ann Link, and come on up please, Ann, who observes the Board of Supervisors along with Mary Thompson of North County, and you've done this for several years with great write-ups. And then Beryl Flom observes the San Diego United School District board meetings. Yeah, thank you. And Ann Noel observes the Port of San Diego and the Coastal Commission. Did I get it
You did, good.
Okay, so thank you so much. It's an important job, and I so appreciate it. So, thank you. Okay, we're going to put
Okay, so go ahead. 1, 2, and 3. Everyone slide that way, just a touch. All right? Look right here. And here. 1, 2, and 3. One more. 1, 2, and 3. And last one. 1, 2, and 3. Okay.
Okay. Thank you all. All right. So somebody this spring asked me what it was like to be president of the League of Women Voters of San Diego. And I said off the cuff, it's like being air traffic control for a big bunch of smart women. And there's truth to that. It is wonderful to be able to stand back and steer all the different energies that you all constitute, all the interest group chairs and all the ideas that come up. So I want to say that the state of the League of Women Voters of San Diego is strong. We have had over 100 new members in the last year. We're in a very strong financial position, thanks to several bequests. We have energetic leaders across the board and new ones who are joining, which is very exciting. We have broad engagement on voter empowerment and our interest groups, and I do commend to you to read these annual reports. To me, this really tells our story in an important way. We have been, I think, engaged very effectively on the issues for emphasis that we voted on last year at our annual meeting. One of them was outreach. We've done a lot of work on getting candidate forums in new areas, having voter registration in new areas. We also have developed our campaign finance dashboard project, which is now called Follow the Money San Diego. And if you haven't seen it yet, you've got to go to the website and have a look. At the moment, it has information on funding for all 4 city council races. And it's very interesting information about what's inside the district, outside, what PACs are giving. So we're very pleased about that, and it's been a wonderful addition to our offerings. Now, the challenges to democracy are great, as we all know, but the League, sorry, I need a little water or something. But the League is working hard at all levels. As you've heard from Jenny, the National League is very engaged in litigation around voting rights, election protection. They're doing a lot on immigration, presidential power. So there's a lot that the League is doing. And I must say locally that we're very on top of some of the more heartbreaking issues in our community. For me, that includes the extensive deportations and detention, the conditions in our jails, our housing, our Tijuana problem, Tijuana sewage problem, water in general. We have tackled all these topics with information and education. So our energy and our stamina may be tested, but we do have each other. So I want to say a couple of words about what I see as kind of our internal challenges, not problems, but just challenges. So tensions. So there's one tension between our ambitions and our volunteer energies. Our volunteers have a certain amount of energy for the League, but it's not a paid job, and we need to take care of our volunteers. There's a tension between our nonpartisanship stance and our desire to do advocacy. And I think this leads to all kinds of important conversations about where our voice is most important. I think we've been careful about advocacy because our nonpartisan stance is very respected in this day and age, especially. But we also have taken some stances this year. And as you know, the board did vote. It voted narrowly, but it did vote to support Measure A. And I think that was an important step. The third item is that we're learning how to have invested funds. This has been the first year of having an investment account, which is something we did with our bequests. We feel very lucky to have this, but, deciding when should we spend it, how should we spend it, should we spend it, etc., ongoing conversations. So, I have a few more appreciations. Obviously, I appreciate all of you, but especially our leaders, the board, the interest group chairs who do so much for us, our voter empowerment leaders. There's so much to be said, but there are two particular people who I want to call out, and they are Kim Knox and Julianne C. And unfortunately, Kim isn't with us this evening, but I want to talk about her. And I have given her a little bouquet earlier today. So Kim and Julianne were the masterminds of the Follow the Money San Diego project, and they really shepherded it all the way from coming up with the idea, decision-making about what form it would take, getting board approval for some additional funding, coordinating with Amy Tabia of Represent Us, and then managing the whole software development process. We are so lucky to have their expertise as well as commitment. Julianne and Kim also, in addition to this, review and edit the monthly Voter, which is a very important contribution to its clarity and professionalism. So Kim, I'm going to say a word about Kim first, and then I'll get to you. Kim may have retired from the board, but as tech coordinator, she does an incredible job to support our website and our Zoom needs, which she does with incredible patience and tolerance. Her savvy about budget and tax issues is also invaluable. And mostly, she's just been steadily and patiently there for me this year. Julianne is here, and it's hard to count the number of roles that Julianne has for the league. She's told her husband she won't be on the board. She promised him she wouldn't. But in addition to everything that I have already mentioned, she is the Vote 411 coordinator for San Diego and also does some work for the State League on Vote 411. She's been chair of the Budget Committee. She's also on the Finance Committee. And I just want to say a very big thank you, Julianne. Could you come up, because I do have a bouquet for you.
Used to this.
Your own paparazzo.
Yes.
All right. A big thank you to everyone who helped with the annual meeting, the setup. I want to give a particular shout out to Bob Harrington, who is chief table setter-upper, sign carrier, and general consultant about the league, by the way. So I have one more person I would like to introduce. Bryn, where are you? I know you came in. There you are. Okay, come on up. So Bryn Lee is new to us, and she is just graduated from Canyon Crest Academy. She is going to Harvard in the fall. And she emailed us a few weeks ago and said, I'd like to do a first vote initiative for you, which is a project to help first-time voters, especially Gen Z, right, to become voters and become informed voters. So she is putting together a toolkit we'll put on our website and a talk that she's going to have for high school students. So I just wanted to have people meet you and welcome you. You don't have to give a speech. Okay, moving on with the rest of our meeting, I'm going to turn the mic over to Sarah, our wonderful patient treasurer.
Thank you.
So, you do have, this material is on your handout, but we are going to have some information on the screen if you want that.
Okay. Hello, everyone. I want to just go over a few high-level things about the Treasurer's Report. You do have things in your packet that you can look at, particularly our Statement of Financial Position and other details about the finances. But overall, as Jane has already said, we're in a very solid position, and we know that we actually are very lucky because of some bequests and things that have been made to this league in the past. So especially as I think the leagues have transitioned to the new way of receiving membership payment, it's been a struggle for some, but we've done well. And you can look at the balance sheet and also the budgets that will be reviewed in a bit and see more. But I would say that one of the things that continues is we have been very lucky to receive some significant donations even this year that were not bequests, but donations that have been applied to our general donation fund. So that's also, I think those are above what we had anticipated. We also have, our expenditures have pretty much been in line with what was budgeted. Some areas were a little more, but other areas we didn't spend as much in. So we're in good shape in terms of what our budget has been and what we've spent. And then as Jane mentioned, this is the first year that we've had an investment account, and that was opened in September, and a significant amount of money was transferred into that account and was very thoughtfully done in a way that allows us to eventually reap additional interest from that, but also makes it still something that we can access. And so we're very conscious of the fact that that money, while it's invested, is something that we can access if we need to. I also want to thank Kim particularly, because I became the new treasurer, and Marka, who's here, the past treasurer, have been very helpful to me, but I've been a particular probably pain in the butt to Kim Knox, who reviews a lot of things I've done, because being a treasurer was not something I'd ever done for an organization like this before. But she's been very supportive and very patient in making corrections or suggestions, and also to Julianne and Kim together for the work on the budget committee, which I was a part of, but they really were incredible in terms of going over things and picking through our past budget and making suggestions along with Jane. So those are basically the comments I have about from my report. There's more a little bit more in the annual packet, and if there are questions later, we could
do questions. Oh. If there are questions now, it might be the time. Okay. I don't see any, or do we? Oh. If you have a question, raise your hand. Okay. I don't see any. Oh, Jeannie Brown.
What is the best way for people to do a bequest?
Marka, help us out.
It's what is the best way for someone to do a bequest?
There's a
Do you have-
very simple form that's offered statewide, but you would usually just contact your financial advisor.
No. I want to add something to that. One thing just to know, and we can repeat this, but towards the end of last year, we actually had the financial advisor that we're working with do a special session with us to explain to people different ways that they could donate money, because as it became the end of the year, that's when people start deciding they want to make donations. But people can do it in various ways, and we could repeat that. So we do have, I don't think we recorded that, but we do have notes from that we could share with people. And you can always get in touch with Jane or myself, and I would consult with other people, and that would be great. And just, some of the interesting donations we've had this year, we've had a couple of sets of donations that have come in honor of someone who died, who had been a longtime league member, and their friends got together and made a significant amount of donations to us. So there are lots of ways to, I think, make donations if people are interested or request.
This is the national.
Yeah, it's the same. Yeah.
Okay. And no questions? Okay. Thank you very
Oh, wait,
much.
I see it.
Oh.
Ann McDonald has a
Oh.
question. Can you shout it out?
There are several categories for the proposed 26-27 budget, and that's zero, like the lunch dinner tickets.
Okay, that is a budget question. We'll take that up when we discuss the budget. I just want to thank the people who are on the Finance Committee, which includes Kathy Rich, who is here. Raise your hand, thank you. And Janelle Trotter, who is here. This group, which includes Sarah, me, Julianne, and Marka, meets every quarter to review the financial statements and make sure we're on track. Okay, so we don't have any motion there. Julianne, you're up for the budget, and I'm going to run some slides for you.
Thank you very much. Before I begin, I just want to acknowledge all the hard work that Deirdre Browner did to also get the Follow the Money San Diego site up. Her experience has really been helpful. And while I'm at it, Ann Link really was a stalwart behind the vote 411 for this election and for past elections. Okay, so the proposed budget. The budget committee was myself and the members, our treasurer, Sarah O'Leary, secretary, Donna Bartlett-May, our president, Jane Andrews, and Janelle Trotter. Thank you very much. Kim Knox was also a very valuable consultant who found a $450 error very late in the process, which will be offset by a corresponding donation by someone on the budget committee who wanted those numbers to be the way they should be. Okay, I thought, so this is a very compressed version of the budget. In your packet, you've got a more expanded one that also has comparisons of certain line items of interest. And yeah, you'll in this version, you'll see the 450 all squared away. And I also wanted to note in the expenses, the first line item under expenses, formerly this category is called awards and sponsorships, and now we're calling it sponsorships of other orgs' work because we will be honoring Ann Clark in other ways, just through our general work as a league, rather than having the scholarship. And we're also grouping certain fees for various local groups. Some of them ended up in this category, some ended up under meetings, and we're putting them all in this category now. If we could move to the next slide. I like graphs. So I've got, those first 3 lines are for next year's budget, and the bottom 3 lines are for the current year's budget. And you'll see it's, the proportions are kind of equivalent. It is a deficit budget, but we've decided to report the transfer of funds from our reserves as income, and so it's a clearer, it's a more friendly number at the bottom, but you can see how much we're actually drawing from the reserves. Anyway, so the first blue line is the regular income. The darker blue line is the income with that planned transfer from reserves added, and then the red line is the expenditures. So we have the money to do what we want to do, basically. Can we go to the next slide, please? Just some notes on the income comparisons. I put the colored chart on the slide, but you don't have it in your handout. But I just thought that this really brings out that basically the categories in terms of the income, it's pretty much the same as for last year, except in a few categories, such as that on the bottom, so that's last year. On the bottom there's a big fat green bar there, which is the investment income. The reason that has shrunk so much is in the previous budget, we had basically all of our investment income was being reported in the annual budget. But if we have this new 5-year investment strategy, those funds aren't really available to be spent unless there's an emergency. So if we move them out of the budget and just report those in the statement of financial position, we know we have that money, but we're not planning to spend it in the coming year. The other disappearing money on the bottom line, so the current year's budget, we have some income to offset expenses for dinner or lunch meetings with meals. And we don't have any planned currently for the coming year. However, if we feel that we want to do a program like that or have a tour, say, that can be proposed as a project to the board. Generally, for those kinds of events, the income from ticket sales offsets the expenditures, so it doesn't really affect the annual budget too much. But we also felt that projections of those costs would be far more accurate closer to the planning when we know what gas will cost, say, or renting a bus might cost. So I think that's all I wanted to say about the income. Can we go to the next slide? So for the expenditures, on the current year's budget, that's the bottom one, there's a big black box at the end, right there. That is the delayed obligation for the portion of dues that would be sent to the state and the National League. So previously, we would collect all the dues money, and then we would send parts of it to the state or to the National League. And that was always like a year behind. So this current year, we had the final obligation to pay that, since switching to a new system where the National League collects all the dues, and they send the money to the state and to us. So out of the recommended $75 annual membership, we get $15, and then there's some subtracted for the credit card fees. So we get about $13.60 out of the annual membership, which underscores the importance of these bequests and these donations and how very much we appreciate that. If you are in a position to make that kind of a legacy gift or an annual gift, we are quite happy to put it to work for you. I think that about wraps it up. We do need to vote on this though, so.
Can you make a motion?
Yeah, I'll make a motion, and if there's a second, then we'll have discussion, and there may be questions during that discussion.
I'll second.
Okay, I move that we approve the budget for the coming year as proposed in the annual meeting packet. Okay, and a second from Ashley. Are there any questions or discussion? Yes.
On your first graph, it seems like we're almost taking $20,000 per year out of the reserves. Is that right?
Yeah, so last year it was 19,771, and this year we're planning 16,000. And I think at this rate, given the state of our reserves, this is sustainable, and we're able to cover that with the income from the investments. Yeah, so that was part of why we wanted to move the reporting of, again, it's a deficit budget, but we're not worried about it because we feel we do have a responsible way of covering all of the expenditures without running dry.
Yeah, basically, we're feeding the income that is coming through our invested account is staying within the invested account. So there's an increase in the invested account. And that's one of the ways we're covering.
Yeah.
One of the things I want to mention, this goes back to this past year, is that the board did vote an additional $6,000 in this current year for the Follow the Money San Diego. So, that was a carefully thought out decision. We had a lot of discussion about it. It wasn't something done just like that. But I think I'm interested in the membership's input in, where do we pull out of these investment funds for that purpose, as opposed to do we just keep reinvesting money in the invested funds so it's around for longer? I think that's a longer term question for us. Okay.
Yeah.
Other questions? Yeah, Anne.
I guess I don't understand why you say it's a deficit budget when it looks.
I didn't understand why you're calling it a deficit budget, because we are spending, supposedly proposed, less than last year, and then there are certain things that have zero expenses this year that had expenses last year. So I didn't understand that.
There is a lot of complexity. You will notice that we didn't spend as much this year as we had expected to. So we reviewed those items and made some decisions. Graphic design was one of them. We made some decisions to pull that out of the budget for the coming year. There were a few items like that. I can't remember them off the top of my head, but that's one comment.
Yeah, we did also have, we had an employee several years ago, and we had a surprise insurance obligation that we were billed for and needed to pay this year. I mean, that doesn't show up in the budget, but we do sometimes have some surprises that we like to have money on hand to cover. I think also it was more obvious that it was a deficit budget last year, because when the budget was presented, we had this 19,771 that was transferred. We had that at the very bottom in red. And now it's the same money, but it's just presented up in the income area so that you can see that it's covered at the bottom.
It's really to clarify what a deficit budget means, because we don't have enough money necessarily. It
Yeah, the deficit budget just means we're spending more than the income. We're expecting to receive an income that year, but we have resources from past years that we can draw on. And so it's just a little more alarming if we pull it into the income portion rather than having this 5-digit number at the bottom in red.
And new investment returns that we expect too, right?
Yeah, the investment income doesn't complete. Oh, she said we do have some more investment income that we're expecting. And there is some investment income in the budget, but it's from the more liquid accounts, the short-term interest income and short-term, like a money market account, rather than the Eagle Strategies longer-term investment accounts, which we're aiming for like a 5-year horizon and then reevaluate how we want to spend that.
So last year at this time, we had all our money in Fidelity. We moved $250,000 of that into an account that is managed by Eagle Strategies. So we still have quite a bit of money in Fidelity. The income from that we are factoring in as regular income. The income in the invested account, we're putting back into the invested account. Okay. Miles.
I just had a question about the investment account. Is that money invested in fixed investments, in equities, or some of both?
It's not AI. So the league, when we put this project together, developed an investment policy. Now that investment policy is available on our website, and I'll tell you where you can find it. It's very carefully thought out, and there's a certain amount of fixed income, there's a certain amount of equities. It's a definitively conservative approach. We also have some comments about environmental and social justice. So, and we chose an investment advisor who works for nonprofits and who is going to help us with that. So, anyway, that's I can give you that information.
It's a balanced approach.
Balanced and on the conservative side.
We no longer have an office with employees.
No, we have no office. We have a storage unit. We do not have an employee. I think the complexities of having an employee outweighed the benefits. And so I have no intention of getting another employee of that ilk.
So when we call the league, who do we get?
Oh, Donna. So you may be aware that we also have a program. So when you call, it gets written out, and then Donna goes and
I'll call you back down.
I just had a question on a line item. What does insurance mean? What do you define?
So our biggest insurance item is director's insurance, to cover us in case something goes amiss, but we also have general insurance. So, for example, to rent this space, we needed to produce insurance, which we get through the California. It's a pretty big cost.
Do we have, or what is the strategy of spending money? I've been with organizations before where they're so happy to have the money, they never spend it. And I want my money, if I give it, to be working. And I know you need reserve and all of that. And we have elections coming up. Let's spend it, but I don't know how you determine that. Good question.
So our budget committee contacted all of the interest groups, such as the Criminal Justice Committee and immigration, the events. We asked, are there any special projects that you're planning this year? There were some who said, well, I'm not sure yet, but I think I would like to propose a project later for the board's approval with the expenditures and offsetting ticket sales, that type of thing. And we also looked at the areas of emphasis and the program that the membership had decided on. These are our priorities. This is where we want to focus our effort. And one of those priorities, for example, was the campaign finance. And so that was why the board considered and eventually approved expenditures on a software programmer to enhance an existing site, the Follow the Money San Diego site, that was very aligned with league priorities. And we felt we have this money, let's put that to work. And I think I really respect the fact that the program process and determining what the priorities of the organization are really guided the budgetary process, because that really, nothing shows your priorities more than where you're spending your money.
I'm going to say a word about voter empowerment is our election-oriented work. So there's more in this budget for voter empowerment than there is in a non-election year. And one of our biggest expenditures is to purchase the Easy Voter Guides print version from the State League. I think there's about a $2,700 expenditure. And then we give those to the libraries. They have all the pros and cons of the ballot measures. So we discussed this as a budget committee, but felt that's an important expenditure. We have, increased copying expenses around the election year. Another one of our biggest expenditures, which we talked about in our board meeting, is the convention. This year we're sending 5 people to the national convention in Columbus, Ohio. It's quite a lot of money, but it's an important connection with the broader league. So I would say the rest of our expenditures are, smaller ones.
Yeah, I just wanted to close the loop
To your question about strategic investments, because I think what they were speaking to about the 2 investment funds we have now was really a pause over the last 6 months to a year, how we use the few bequests we got and thinking about long-term strategies. And then I think what you two just spoke to is maybe our short-term strategies. And there's maybe room for us to grow the election campaign finance dashboard, which might be some resources. We have a little stockpile that I think we're looking to figure out how we can make it work better for us. But a couple $100,000 goes very quickly if you start using it. So I think we wanted to feel like there was a little bit of a foundation financially for it, and then figure out some longer term strategies to put it to work. Is that fair? Yeah.
Monica. I want to introduce Monica Munoz, who is our new co-chair of criminal justice, along with Jean Brown.
Thank you. My question is, do you offer opportunities? I know we talked about bequests and donations, but do you offer opportunities perhaps for an individual or a company to underwrite something like the books you just mentioned at the cost of $2,700?
Right now we don't, but it's a good idea. Thank you. Any other questions? We do have, by the way, at the end of this meeting, we have direction to the board, so you can make more comments then if you have some. Jill, our former treasurer.
Sorry, I should have probably asked this under the treasurer's report, but I noticed that the $262,000 investment is in the name of Eagle Strategies. It's part of New York Life, so it's a part of the big conglomerate worst case scenario. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Eagle Strategies is the investment advisor. New York Life holds the funds.
Yeah, although we did instruct the financial advisor that, it's hard to have the perfect socially conscious profile, but there were some major sectors that we decided that we really didn't feel good investing the organization's money in. So, you can only do that to a certain degree, but we did discuss it carefully, and we did choose to, forego some returns in order to make sure that certain industries were not in our portfolio.
Okay, ready for a vote? Okay, all right. All in favor of the motion as stated, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say no. Any abstentions? All right, thank you. The motion carries. And thank you, Julianne and the Budget Committee. It was a complicated year. There were a lot of shifts, but I'm hoping that it's going to be simpler going forward. We'll see. Okay. Where am I lost. Somebody took. Julianne, did you take my piece of paper? Thank you. All right. Next up is Miles. Miles has been chair of our nominating committee, and I'm going to, in advance of him coming, thank him, Denise Vedder, Wendy Young, Kathleen Grove, and Dana Freehoff for being part of that committee.
Thank you, Jane. The following members have been nominated to serve a 2-year term on the league board for the year that begins July 1st, 2026 and runs through June 30th, 2028. So it's a 2-year period. For Vice President, Ashley Rodriguez, who's here. For Secretary, Donna Bartlett May. For Events Chair, Eldiko Antal. And for at-large directors, Sue Fisher, Martha Perez, and Jackie Worth.
Who couldn't be with us.
Okay. So nominations are also accepted from the floor, provided that the consent of the nominee is secured. Do all of the nominees consent to nominations from the floor? Looks like they do. So,
are there any other nominations?
okay. So seeing none, I move that the nomination of the names that I just read for the board be accepted and approved.
Should we have a second? Don't need it. Oh, okay. So he casts
the vote.
A vote for.
He can do that, yes. He can cast one vote for the entire slate.
Okay. So I cast one vote for the entire slate.
Okay.
Congratulations.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. And thank you to those willing to serve. We're
Yes.
delighted. Oh, hang on.
That's next. So we also came up with 3 names to serve on the nominating committee for next year, the year that the league year begins on July 1st. Wendy Young would chair it. Deidre Browner, who is here, and Noel, who is here. They have all agreed to serve on the nominating committee. So again, nominations are also accepted from the floor, provided that all of those people consent. Do you all consent?
So if they were to nominate somebody, that person would have to consent.
Okay.
In other words, I can't get up and just say, I'm nominating
Okay.
Carol Grodzins, and she doesn't want it.
Okay. So are there any other nominations from the floor? Okay, so seeing none, I cast one vote to approve the entire slate for the nominating committee.
Thank you. The nominating committee is such an important role for our league. Okay, so this year we do not have some of the things that we normally have at an annual meeting. And the first one is we don't have a vote about program. And this is because at last year's annual meeting, we changed our bylaws so that we only vote on that every 2 years. And I personally think this works pretty well to not be changing program in the middle of an election year when we're busy with that. But next spring, I want you all to come to program planning. It's up to the membership to submit ideas, topics, and then we bring them to the annual meeting next year. So I think I mentioned that our issues for emphasis this past year were essentially outreach, it was the campaign finance dashboard, and there was one more that had to do with election reform, which we've kind of put on hold because there wasn't a particular project that fit in that. So the other thing we don't have is bylaws revisions. We took a year off from that. I think we felt we'd done a lot last year. So we are now at a part of the meeting which I always enjoyed in my prior league, which was something called Direction to the Board. And this is a chance for people to make comments, make suggestions, criticisms. It's a nice time to hear from each other. And I'm wondering, is there anybody who'd like to give our board some direction? And
from all I've heard, my direction is you're going in the right direction, keep going.
thank you. All right, any other? Robin. This is Robin Edwards, who's one of our newer members.
Curious, based on what we've been seeing a lot in the press, whether the League of Women Voters has any particular stance on how women and journalists are being treated in media. Just curious. I know it may be a little out there, but it is.
Do you want to say a little more on that?
Not really. I'd like to know if there was anything that, because I know the League has gotten more involved in things that, you know, on a weekly basis. I just didn't know if it was in their realm, so I don't.
You know, do you have a response on that?
I have one.
Yeah. I think like the local league, the National League picks issues for emphasis, and that has really been focused on voting rights, election protection, presidential power this year. I don't know if past presidents have any comments on the league and women.
Well, I'd just like to say, I think that locally, the media has been very good with women. So it's on the national level, I think, is what she is referring to, and that's for the National League to address.
I didn't know if that was something so.
Thanks. Yeah, I would, again, to echo Jamie, we have a national platform and then local issues we follow, but I would say, I think generally the league is supportive of the First Amendment and of course women's rights and put them together, and they're both important to us. And also, Kelly couldn't be here today. Kelly Green, no, not Kelly Davis.
Kelly Davis.
Yeah, Kelly. No, that's I was confused. I was like, Kelly Davis, isn't it? I do think we regularly honor journalists at this meeting and at other points they've been with me. Kelly Davis maybe has gotten it a few times now too. But I also used to work in journalism at 3 of the local outlets, and so I can say I definitely feel it amongst the league. So thanks for your question.
The National League, I think all the levels of the league, they have had a long-standing position in support of civility in public discourse, and I think that would apply to a lot of these very visible episodes of incivility toward reporters who are doing their jobs and asking questions.
I think we are in a really good direction, and so if there's not other things, I just wanted to give a shout out to Jane, because I think your leadership in this last year has been really special. You're the best air traffic controller we all know.
Okay, so please take some food. You don't need to, there's those macaroons are so great. So please, take some food with you. I look forward to working hard with all of you around the coming election. It is so important. I want to thank the board once again for all the ways they've been steady but creative. I'd like to get a photo, Lance, of all our new board members.
I just want to say, we did not receive any resolutions by the due date, so that item on the agenda there is.
Thank you. I skipped right over that. Okay, so anyway, Ildiko and Sue and Lori and Mary and Martha, please come up so we can have a picture of our group. But thank you all for coming. It's great to see you all, and onward. I'm supposed to adjourn. We are adjourned at 7:14. Thank you. Thank you, Bruce. You kept me in line.